see that brown line?
Yeah, we're recording. Okay, so for everyone who's wondering what in the world this is, I thought it would be fun to start a new thing called Party Line, where it's myself and members of the team. And also we're thinking ultimately you guys talking about stuff with real estate, our experiences, you know, stuff to keep in mind. So today I have Julie Bulger.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah, she's wondering if we should start calling her Juliana because that's her real full name. So feel free to weigh in on if she should go by Julie or Juliana. So today we're going to talk about landlord horror stories. So Julie and I both, I'm currently a landlord, and Julie has had multiple properties over the years. I think, is this the first time you're not a landlord? Is it relaxing?
Yeah, it's nice.
So I called Julie today and I was like, all irritated. And the reason I was irritated is because I have a tenant and they don't pay me on time. And every tenant I've ever had doesn't pay me on time. And it drives me nuts because I'm always thinking about you guys like, okay, you know, we qualify so many people for investment properties where if a tenant didn't pay them on time, it could totally affect their life. Like it would be a really bad problem. And it's a reason why we always say, you know, keep reserves. You need money in the bank. Being a landlord, you need this, you know, because what if they don't pay you till the 15th? Like your mortgage is already due. So you're paying that in front. And Julie had some pretty good stories over the years about being a landlord. Julie, I have so many memorable stories of your tenants. However, which one, should we talk about?
We could talk about my tenants who blacked out their windows and everyone in the neighborhood was worried that it was like a serial killer Dexter situation.
Yeah.
Or we could talk about the tenants who tried to kill me on their way out of the house.
I mean, so much murder in being a landlord. I'm not, you know, let's talk about the potential, can we, you know, kill Julie Bulger angle. Walk everyone through your lovely story of trying to make money off of a property you own.
Well, that was the grand finale. So the story started with a great couple, well-liked in the neighborhood where I had the rental. They lived in this big lakefront house. They had an oil refining business. They had just moved to the area like within the last year from Southern California, from Orange County. This was in Charleston, South Carolina. So they were like the cool Californians who were just making friends everywhere, getting people to invest in their oil refining business. And they wanted
I actually know these people. So Julie knows this, but you guys don't know this. Julie and I met years after this, and she was telling this story and I'm like, what was their name? And she told me, and it was actually someone that I had grew up with. And I can tell you, yeah, I mean, this was like the weird side of the family, but these are people that you're like, wow, they're like, you know, upper crust. Are they Kennedys? It's that type of vibe of wealth and affluence.
Yeah, that's how they came across for sure.
Yeah.
And so I had a small house in this development, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, really cute, brand new house I was renting. And they wanted to have it to house guests, to house potential, you know, business people who are coming in town, traveling to see them, and to occasionally hold meetings for clients outside of their personal residence.
Right.
And so, yeah, I rented in the house. It was a great deal for us, less wear and tear, you know.
Landlord dream. They're just going to have, because I know they have older kids, so the older kids could come and visit, and you know, a couple times a month the house is being used. As a landlord, that's what you always want. You want your house perfect,
low wear and tear, right? But so they paid their rent on time. Like everything was just going great. It was no issue. I wasn't even thinking about the house. It was like a done deal until I noticed the rent didn't show up one month. And then it was another
into the month. Like I know, like guys, Julie's cheap. Like not cheap. Like you watch your money. Okay. Was it the second?
I'm a person who budgets, right?
Well,
like,
you care about your money, right? I care about my money too. So what was the trigger date where you're like,
the second of the month?
So what did you do?
12 a.m. on the first of the month.
Yeah.
So I called and there was no response, which was weird, right? Because I'm dealing with someone who's communicating and really involved in the community, and now there's no response. So my first sort of suspicion is, I hope they're okay. That's really out of character, and they're not returning my call to let me know what's going on. So then the end of the month came, and the new month, the next month started, still nothing. And so I took a move to evict them.
Okay, but I have to ask, did you do a drive-by?
Oh, yeah.
And
this is where it gets crazy. So I did a drive-by a few times, and what I noticed happening was they had moving trucks, and they were moving loads of furniture and personal effects into the house. Because at this time I was living in Charleston, South Carolina. I was living around the block, right? So I was close. They were moving their personal items and their kids and their dogs into the house.
So the lakefront house is gone now. They're now moving into your tiny rental.
Yeah. So come to find out, the lakefront house residence is gone. And guess what? The oil business was a sham.
Oh, yeah. Ponzi scheme.
It was a Ponzi scheme. They had gotten all these people to invest, and they didn't even have a product. So shame on the investors for not doing their due diligence, but it happens. You meet a neighbor, you become good friends. Yeah. You see the big lakefront house, you see the Kennedy image, and you just trust that person. It was a sham. So they were in the process of being sued and going bankrupt, all this business. And they moved into the little tiny house that was not supposed to be occupied by X number of people without talking to me and without paying rent. So it's sort of like their stopping ground before the next stage.
So for anyone that's feeling bad for these people right now, who's thinking like, oh, well, so what? They moved into that house. Okay, here's the thing, guys. They're not paying that landlord rent. And besides that, with this Ponzi scheme, they went around that neighborhood fleecing everybody, getting people like, to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars in a fake business. These are not, good people that fell on hard times.
No.
These are swindling crooks. And now Julie's got them in her house. And, unfortunately, you can't just take a baseball bat and go visit. You can't. I mean, guys, you can't. This is not appropriate landlord behavior. So you moved to evict.
You have to go to evict. And this is important to note. When you're evicting someone, you're still not getting paid. So I'm on the hook for the mortgage, the taxes, and the insurance on this house, right? Every single month, not getting one penny from these people. And I have to go through the eviction process, which I think was 90 days. I had to go in front of the judge. They were there. Actually, their attorney showed up to try to stall the eviction. But
poor attorney, we know he didn't get paid.
He probably got sued though over that. So, and that's kind of the thing. It's like, when you get into a situation with someone who hasn't paid you for months, are you really going to spend the money going after them with your own attorney? No, you're going to cut your losses and try to get them out and try to, fix the damage that's been done.
But overall, it took 120 days?
Probably. I mean, it definitely, I can't, it was a long time ago, but it was 90 days, I believe, from start to finish to evict them and to get them out.
But there's that first month where they haven't paid you.
And then that rolls into the second month, right? Because you're just constantly wanting to give people the benefit of the doubt, because you in your heart don't want to go through an eviction process and the pain of having to do that and having to find new tenants and clean up the mess. You know what I mean? You're just hoping it resolves itself, but it never does, right?
No. So, I mean, that's 4 months of rent, and that you had 4 months of mortgage payments, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, that if you and your husband at the time had, you would have been in a position where you couldn't pay the mortgage on that property. You could have lost that mortgage, due to a foreclosure. Totally not your fault.
Yeah. And damaged my credit and all kinds of things, right?
So how did they try to kill you?
So what ended up happening was when they finally were evicted by the sheriff, right? Sheriff comes and does the eviction. It turned out they were being, as I mentioned, sued and went through bankruptcy. So the bankruptcy liquidators were in the house taking their personal effects out to pay the debts that they had to pay as part of their settlement agreement with their bankruptcy, I guess. I don't really understand all the details, but there are people in the house taking physical items out.
Yeah, Julie, that feels more like the FBI seizing materials. Like they have those big
crazy.
They have those big FBI, or I'm sure someone can chime in and say what they are, but the sales of like, you know, all the drug lords and Ponzi scheme people where the government sells off the assets, like based on what they did.
It was crazy. And so I think it's important to note that they moved in the middle of the night. Like they loaded their trucks up in the middle of the night, gave no notice, told us they were not leaving. They basically got the paper served and then the middle of the night left. No forwarding address, right? Of course.
Well, the odds were they were never going to pay you at that point, but I like that you held off with like, maybe they'll give me a forwarding address to bill them to.
Yeah, no, there's just, you know, but you think, anyway, yeah, you're right. No forwarding address. So go into the house. The condition's pretty rough. Holes in the walls, garbage everywhere, all of their effects that are in the process of being liquidated, rough paint, all the things, you know, that you don't want to see as a landlord, not normal wear and tear that you expect, but people that have been rotten to your house.
Yeah.
So I'm, you know, going up the stairs to check out the second level, and I put my hand on the banister and it's literally about to disintegrate. They had taken every spindle on the way up to the staircase and loosened it.
Who does that?
I don't know. It was one of the strangest things I've ever come across as a landlord. One or two, I get it. Yeah, maybe the glue didn't hold the wood, but it was every single spindle from the bottom to the top of the staircase.
You could seriously get hurt doing that. I mean, if someone was like walking down the stairs, you grab onto it, you lean, you're toast. And it's just so bizarre.
For a kid, like running up and down any of it. It was immediately evident to me when I touched it that it was like jiggling.
Yeah, that's horrible. So in the end, they paid you nothing.
They paid me nothing. I was out of rent for, you know, months. I had the cost to, you know, rehab the place, which I had a security deposit. So that was good. But that security deposit did not cover rent all those months. And it certainly didn't cover the damage that ended up happening in the house.
No, my sister, and you actually, I haven't told you this yet. So she has a house that she'd been renting out and the tenants just decided to move. And so they're like, okay, we'll put it on the market. It's in a super desirable area. Yeah. About that. So apparently they have a dog and it was part of the lease that the dog was well behaved. You know, I have to tell you, I will never rent to a dog again after, I mean, dogs filling out leases is a problem anyways, but after this story, apparently they have wood floors. Every single room the dog had urinated in. Wow. So, you know, she has a deposit and these are like, you know, 800 credit scores, professional people, but they just are bad dog owners. So they would go to work, leave the dog used the house as a toilet. So she has to refinish all the wood floors. It gets worse. You're like, how could it be worse? It gets worse. So apparently there had been like some small leak in the bathroom and they never told my sister so that she could fix it. So for the last year, and I think they've been in there maybe 2 years, it's been growing and growing and growing and growing. So now they have this huge $30,000 to $40,000 problem. Whereas if they'd been notified, because the lease always says like, hey, if you see something go sideways, you need to tell us. And I am thankful that like with my, you know, people I've rented to, they've always told me if there's a problem and I always fix it immediately. But like, no, they didn't tell her there was something else similar, like somewhere else in the house where it could have been fixed quickly, but it wasn't. So she's looking now at like $100,000 to make it so that the house is in saleable condition. So was it worth the rent? No, because she's out, right? Like she collected enough rent probably to pay the bills and the mortgage for the house. And nobody ever collects enough in these situations in the security deposit to fix the damage. So now any equity she may have is probably lost in the cost to rehab the property. Yeah. Yeah. Such a bummer. I know, it's a total bummer. So if you guys have a landlord story, like a good one, have you been renting to someone for years that just like pays you like clockwork and the house is in good condition? Or if you have a horror story, like email us. We're going to start adding people to the calls. I think I can do like 3 people. It could be super fun. Maybe 4. We'll get a different thing. But, you know, we're just going to start talking about stuff so that you guys know that, like, as lenders, often when we're talking to people about buying investment properties, we're having serious conversations about reserves, the importance, making sure your insurance, because you can get your insurance to cover some of the stuff we're talking about. Like, get that stuff set up. You don't want to be with a Julie, or you don't want to be in my position where, you know, I mean, maybe I need a property management company. We'll talk about that another time.
Important to say, reserves really are how you prepare for the unexpected.
We should probably say what reserves are, because we're talking in lenderese again.
Yeah. Reserves are, it's money set aside, measured in months, typically 6 months for an investment property, that covers your housing expenses, your principal, interest, which is your mortgage, and your taxes and insurance. So that's money that's set aside after your loan closes, right? After you close and you pay your closing costs and your down payment, you've got 6 months generally that are sitting in a bank account that you can access if you have an emergency, like a tenant not paying your rent. And
there's a lot of loan programs where you only need 2 months sometimes. So you guys just want to be really cognizant of, like, thinking about this up front, so that, you know, just because we say you qualify doesn't mean that you're going to be prepared for these types of situations, which, based on, you know, talking to people, feel more often than not. So stack the cash. Stack the cash. Stack the cash. Okay.
Document the cash. We got to show the seasoning on those.
Okay, that's another call. We're going to do another call. So, you know, what do you guys think? Do you like this new format for fun? I mean, I've been in a chair a lot. I'm still in a chair. It's not much different. Thank you, as always, for watching. If you guys need a mortgage, Julie and I are here to help you. I'm licensed in 46 states. Julie is the California queen.
Licensed in 1.
Yeah, she's licensed in 1. Way to go. Okay, thanks for watching, guys.
Bye.